Yep, we're live. Go ahead. How are you, gentlemen? Welcome to the studio. And
Yeah,
today
thank
we
you.
have Dr. Ndimu to lead us in a discussion about Kenya's high cost of living, which is a litmus test to Ruto economics. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you again for hosting and being a co-host here to KJTV show on Thursdays. Really a robust discussion about what is happening in our homeland country in Kenya, and even to especially the diaspora people who, when they go to Kenya, they also experience the exact same things that Kenyans are experiencing. So today's discussion is about what is the hot topic in town, and actually all over the world, but most important in Kenya. The high cost of living. What is the high cost of living and how do people feel it and define it? The cost of living is what we pay for in our regular daily living, including rent or housing, food. And when you come to food, we are looking at the most basic needs like tomatoes, kale, cabbage, beans, rice, fish, and meat. And the most critical one is transportation, moving from one place to another. So when the cost of living is going up, it means the cost of paying for those goods and services that I've just mentioned is not commensurate with what we have in our pockets. So our income has remained steady or is static, but the cost of these services and goods are tremendously increasing to an extent that people are now forced to even look at their basket and say, you know what, I cannot do with this, I cannot do without this, I can't afford this, until they cannot really even pay their rent, which is very critical. Now, over to you guys. I'm going to ask and start with my friend Matundura there. What are you hearing about the cost of living in Kenya, having divined what we're talking about today? Compare it
Yeah,
with where we were exactly 1 year ago.
yeah. Thank you very much, Nyacha and Dimu, for the opportunity. And what I could like to say is I'm very much disappointed, and it's actually unbelievable. I was among the people who are actually giving the current government a benefit of doubt. Following all the promises that the president had given before, that's last year, we actually had a lot of expectation from him. But what it's turning out basically is like he's not able to handle what's going on. The economy is kind of actually going out of hand because the way the cost of living is actually in Kenya right now, it's unbelievable. I have family back in Kenya, and I just came to I've been thinking it's a joke, but I just came to realize that it's really very expensive, and a lot of people are struggling. And to me, I think the president needs to actually sit down and have good advisors who can actually tell him what's going in the ground right now, because everything is very expensive, more especially the gas, which is actually the main thing that is driving the economy. So to me, I think because when I was comparing the neighboring countries, Uganda and Tanzania, when you see even the way the dollar is behaving in those countries is way much more better than us. So I feel like there's something going on. Pretty much, I think it's about corruption or anything, but I have a conviction that the president is realizing that the previous regime must have left a hole, a lot of debts. And the president is doing what he can, he's trying to do his best to see that he can be able to cover up all those stuff and keep the country moving. And the only way he can do that, I guess, is by taxing everything. And I'm very disappointed about that. And I'm still following. I really want to know what's exactly going on. But those taxes, for sure, they're really.
Yeah. Yes, and thank you so much for touching that and saying that you are very disappointed because you had given him a benefit of doubt. And you cannot, at the tail end of your explanation there and discussion, you mentioned about well, you said gas, and gas, most people may not know that it's energy. We're used to petrol. That's how we call it here in Kenya. I think, from the Kenyan perspective. So, Dr. Mandi, what is your take? What's causing all this? Why is it feeling so expensive for the Kenyans today?
That is something which is worrying, because see, since the Ruto administration came to power, the shilling has been on a roller coaster. It has been devalued against the dollar, and which they thought was the one making gas being expensive. And then they said now they are going to buy gas in oil. They were going to buy it in Kenya shillings, and they debate the reason how that was going to work. They were buying from Saudi Arabia, for example, that Saudi Arabia would give them oil in credit, and then they pay in 6 months. But then they say they were going to pay in Kenya shillings. And yet, we know very well that Saudi Arabia has a fixed currency, fixed exchange rate with the dollar. Actually, their money, the Saudi riyal, is pegged on a dollar at 375. $1 is 375. And when Kenya was paying back, they were gauging how much Kenya shilling is worth to a dollar. So what kind of economics was that? It was purely a lie. And this money, when they started paying back, they were paying in six months. The dollar had jumped from 130 to 150. So they were paying at 150, paying back to Saudi Arabia, which was even more expensive, even if they could have paid in 6 months earlier. It was cheaper to pay for that oil than paying it later. So, and those are some of the things I am wondering. We are having members of parliament who don't question that. Even where is opposition? We don't see any debate, any sensible debate in the National Assembly to query those small things. What I can say, the reason why we are having a high cost of living, there is a lot of wastage. And some of those things that we don't question. You remember even what Nyakango was saying. They have over budgeted that the salary of state officers 3 times. And that money, we don't know where it disappears to. So that is what is causing cost of living.
So from your understanding, the root economics here, you are saying where they actually essentially borrowed. They borrowed gas or petrol, and they say they are going to pay in 6 months. And in 6 months, the value of the Kenyan shilling had gone so poorly that they are paying now more than they could have paid 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So do you think, Matundura, if I'm not sure if the two of you were able to listen to the first State of the Nation that really just ended like probably a few hours ago. What if any of you had a chance to entirely listen? It was a 1 hour speech, and he was able to give stories about how he has been able to traverse Kenya, and Kenyans are happy that he has been able to reduce, by the way, the cost of living by reducing the cost of gorogoro ya unga, gorogoro ya maize flour, from 217 shillings to 145 to 175 from where it was a year ago. He has been able to reduce the cost of fertilizer from 7,000 shillings to, in some instances, 2,500. How do you respond to that?
Well, thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Nyachae. If I'll continue giving the government or Mr. Ruto a benefit of doubt, then I should say that we are at a phase right now that then Kenyans have to buckle up, because before we see that light at the end of the tunnel, then we must go through a certain period of darkness, which is now. So believing that maybe later things are going to be good, which I cannot be able to go to the bank with that statement right now, but I'm yet to see what's going to happen. But then when you talk about things like the fertilizer being dropped, some of these effects takes time to be felt. So then it's something that we may wait until maybe a year or two when everything is dialed in, then the results will start coming out. But at the moment right now, I think everything is very expensive. And I was even surprised that like a lot of taxes have been included in stuff that was not even taxed before. Talk about even the ID cards, talk about even the death certificate, and I kind of see a government that is so desperate to collect a lot of money from the people. And that's what I think, some taxes are really not even making a lot of sense. That's why I believe the government is actually not on the right trajectory when it coming to taking these taxes. Taxes are good, but when they go to an extent, it is actually pinching the common mwananchi, the mama mboga, who the president was actually fighting for, then that means that there's something going on that we don't understand. And that's why I've started being so skeptical about this government and these taxes. I feel like there's something that, that is happening that we need to know as Kenyans. And actually, we need a complete explanation of what exactly is going on. Otherwise, the people are going to actually...
I completely understand your frustrations there, because in his campaign trail, and not even during his campaign trail, even as most recently before the budget of June 2023, his first financial statement, he said that his government will not increase taxes. His government will reduce taxes. And he said, and he promised Kenyans,
exactly.
you will see.
Nataka niwaambie hivi, serikali ya Kenya hakuna hata tax moja tumeongeza, na hakuna hata tax itaongezwa. Mtaona katika budget yetu ya mwezi wa sita tutakuwa tunapunguza taxes.
It's on record.
Yeah, he's on
That
record.
is in February
He's saying
14th.
exactly that. But I'm not sure, again, if you compare that with the most recent policy statement, which came via what we call a Gazette notice, which is touching every single Kenyan, every single household in Kenya will be taxed. Children who are turning 18, looking for national IDs, they were paying 0. Now they'll start paying 1,000 shillings. So that's from 0 to 1,000 shillings. If you lose it and replace it, you pay, the cost is 2,000 shillings. That is 100% increase. Woe unto you if you're a Kenyan and you have a child born abroad. Yes, they said it's a mistake, but it's going to be very costly. Now, how can I'm not sure if you looked at that. What can you talk about that compared with what he said in February and what happened here just a few months down the road, November 7th and 8th? What's your take?
That is one of the things. At times, I don't take his speeches seriously and he doesn't seem to really care. And even Kenya Kwanza MPs went to State House and they were telling him we have lost popularity because of this high cost of living. He told them it's not always that people will have to like us all the time. So long as they like us at the right time, that during election we will lie to them, and that's what he meant. We shouldn't now worry. And this is one of the things. The economy, it is either the president and his government, they don't really understand how the economy runs. For sure, you cannot tax a country, you cannot tax people that much. There is a law of diminishing returns. You tax people until it reaches a time. What is now happening? Many industries, there is no investor confidence in Kenya right now. Many industries are closing down. Business are closing down. So which means if you are taxing people, the people who are building industries, they don't have money. They are not going to build factories, to employ people. So right now, Kenya, we import everything. Can you imagine? We import even Arura. We can't make it in our country. We have anything. And even those, that's why some investors are running away from Kenya. Number one, there's no rule of law. And if you have seen this, even that statement of telling somebody either you stop what you're doing or you wame Kenya ama once safari kwenda mbinguni. What does that tell investors? Investors are now scared. They are running away from a country. That is why other countries are not having problem. Ruto needs to start governing. You cannot give people threats. You cannot rule with threats. So actually, if you can see that caricature, that shows very well about what Ruto is doing. He is milking a cow completely with all the taxes, and is taking everything, leaving people poor. Yes, you can have the money, but I don't think he's going to succeed in this.
So the theory that if you tax, initially you see you are getting money, but the more you tax people, the more taxes you put in, the more people find the loopholes of not paying the taxes.
Yeah.
And it goes down eventually, then it dries out. But the more you reduce taxes, the more people find the way of producing more, and the more they produce, the economy will grow that way. So in the Ruto economics, and we know we have Dr. D, who was a critic of Uhuru Kenyatta and said once they take power, we will see exactly what Rutonomics means. If we continue taxes, as you say, that is really making Kenya as it is, where will Kenya be in the next 12 months? Tundura.
To me, I think, too much taxes in the next 12 months is going to put the country in jeopardy, because Kenya is a country whereby there's a high rate of unemployment. If it was in a country where the middle class, is working, then they could be able to get a way to go around the taxes. But now talk of taxing people who completely don't have anything to eat. And I mean, so that means that whatever they are consuming, they are being taxed, but they don't have any income. So I think in the next 12 years, if this trend continues, I'm looking at a place where we are going to have a community or a Kenya that crime is going to arise, for instance, because now everybody is going to survive. Somebody needs to put a plate on his table every night. The kids needs to go to school, and people are going to use every dubious means to be able to see that they are going to survive, because there's no way. We are human beings, and we need to eat. So expect things like crime to go up in Kenya. Insecurity is going to be the order of the day, and corruption is going to increase, because of this overtaxing of the government.
So from your opinion, Dr. Mandi, he has mentioned about the fuel costs, which were not so much expensive until a few months ago, when they removed the subsidies that were there, but increased the taxes at the same time. And then we saw what was, at the time of Uhuru Kenyatta leaving office, 1 liter of petrol was going for 125, I believe it was, or 135, give or take. Now it's retailing at 217, and partly because of the taxes and the subsidies that were removed. So what's your take? If this continues this way, and you mentioned there's no opposition right now, it's very quiet.
Yeah.
What do Kenyans now do?
We are going the Sri Lankan way, and the Kenyan population is a very educated population. They are the people who voted him in. Where things are going, we might go the Sri Lankan way, where people will force you out of office. There is a lot of wastage, and he has to face the truth now. At times, when you talk about somebody who is specialist, he needs to rearrange his government. He seems that if he had the people who helped him become president, but now he needs the real people who understand how the economy runs. He has to be told first, you can't overtax people. This is the time to grow the economy, you have to increase the tax base. You have to make more people conducive environment for business. That when you have more people, you will tax less, but you tax more people. But now when people are closing business, for example, he's focusing on, I see he's now saying landlords have to pay rent. This is a guy who built an apartment. He has a loan from the bank, which he's paying. Now that if he's collecting maybe rent in a month for 100,000, he has to pay, he's supposed to pay money to the bank. But now Ruto wants that you pay in what you have earned. First, you have to pay taxes. That's what he's saying. He doesn't care. But you know, in taxation, a landlord is supposed to collect rent. At the end, when he's filing his annual taxes, he will say, I earned this, I earned $1 million, I paid my loans, 500,000 to pay a loan I have to service the debt, any other expenses. So my profit was 400,000. That is what you pay taxes on. But now once you, as you pay per month, the tenants pay per month, you pay taxes within 24 hours. That is not real. You have been in other countries. Things don't work that way. So really, Ruto doesn't understand the business that you cannot overtax people. Now, see people at the airport, they are being taxed even when you saying anything more than 500,000. Everybody mean $500. Your iPhone now, if you go with your iPhone, which is more than $500, which means you are supposed to pay taxes every time you enter Kenya. Is that real? So the thing is, those taxes are going to finish him, and he's going to milk the country.
Absolutely, and catching on that, especially those who are coming in, and most recently when I was traveling to Kenya, it was really a bad experience. I saw this gentleman who is a missionary coming from Tennessee, going to Nairobi, and he was delivering a small box of T-shirts that he had prepared for the orphanage that he was going to donate. That small box was probably having 30 T-shirts for the orphanage. Mm-hmm. He got really embarrassed, frustrated. He came to tears and he left it at the airport because they told him, these are too many. You have to pay taxes on these. And you know what? After calculations, the taxes were worth more than the T-shirts. Because you know here T-shirts, when they're printed, they can cost $3. Yeah. They were taxing him at $10 a T-shirt. Mm-hmm. So it was very. I saw that firsthand, and it was very frustrating. And he was actually going to donate to an orphanage. Yeah, I do understand that pain. So, given what we know today, and we know that the fuel prices have gone low in Tanzania. I hear the Tanzanian fuel prices have gone low, meaning that the cost of living will probably start dropping in Tanzania, because the fuel or energy actually is the driver of the cost of living. Energy is the driver of cost of living. As soon as we reduce the cost of energy, then we can reduce the cost of living. So let me ask you, if you were the Minister for Energy in Kenya today, or the CS for Energy, and also you were in the Treasury today, could you advise the current administration to remove the 8%, because it used to be at 8%. He doubled it to 16% within the last 1 month, I think, and a half. Would you then reduce it so that there is more movement of people, more production, and then there's more input to the economy? Would that be a solution? What are some of the solutions, Sylvia, if you were in the Ruto cabinet, or you were one of the advisors of Ruto, President Ruto?
Well, for me, what I think, for standing on the current economy, the global economy, is that actually the interest rates are a little bit more high across the board, and Kenya being a third world country, I could actually go to the subsidies way for a little bit, just for a certain amount of time, just to wait for the global economy to actually cool down a little bit before, I can increase the taxes. Because, Kenya is a completely different ballgame compared to other developed countries. So when it looks like that the advisors to the president are actually not advising him right, because you cannot tax Kenyans like any other developed country, because a lot of people don't have income. So I agree that I could want to come down a little bit on the taxes as I actually wait to see how the international global economy turns out. And then, subsequently, you can raise taxes, but not just going like now from 8% to 16% on fuel. Actually, that's really a pain for a lot of Kenyans, and they can't manage. And that's why I see that the Ruto's government is actually going to be very unpopular if this continues. Because at the end of the day, if I'm not, if I'm hungry going to bed, without food, I'm not going to like the current government of the day. And that's one thing that is actually going to be popular
So,
in the president.
yeah, thank you so much. So, Dr. Mani, how I believe he has intelligence. President Ruto has intelligence that tells him exactly the feelings of Kenyans. The ordinary mwananchi on the streets of Nairobi, in the streets of Kisumu, in the streets of all the local places, they're feeling the pinch. They're crying. I believe he knows it. He gets it. But he's not. Do you think he's reasoning? If he's not, what will make him reason? At your feet again?
As I said, one of the basic tenets of our country, I was attending another business conference, people from all over the world business leaders. When they look at where they are going to invest, there are so many things they look at. They don't just go to a country. They look at so many things. And that's why we have like a country profile. See, for example, that is if you go to Kenya, where, they were giving a screen like this about Kenya, rule of law. Overall score, we are at 52%. Property rights, we do poorly. You have seen even how people, they don't have titles. People are struggling to get the cases like the criminal cases. Those things don't look well for investors. Judicial effectiveness, we score 39. Government integrity at 30, that is very low. Tax burden is high, 79. Government spending is... So when they look at these points, at what they put regulatory efficiency and other things, that is what the countries look at. They will look at every country. Take, for example, if you look at Uruguay, I just took another developing country. You can see the score of rule of law is very high. Property rights, judicial effectiveness is high, and doing business is high, all of those things. So any business person will look, where Kenya, the image of Kenya right now. Since Ruto came to power, there are many corrupt cases which have been dropped from the judiciary. What happened? That tells people he doesn't care. So he has to fight corruption. He has to fight wastage. There is a lot of wastage in his government. Have you heard him talk anything about if Nyakang'o is that? Have you heard Ruto say anything about it? Nothing. Which means he's abetting corruption. If we can notify that is the image, Kenya, there is a lot of money, even in the energy sector. There is a lot of corruption inside there, which needs to be tamed first before increasing taxes. He should go that route of cleaning government.
Thank you so much for explaining those details. Now let's spend the last few minutes here as we head to the finish line. Which way Kenya now? Now we know he's not fighting corruption. The cost of living is high. The cost of energy is high. The taxes are high. People are crying. KRA is going after landlords. KRA is going after the employees, civil servants. They're being taxed. Companies are actually reducing employees because they don't have enough money to be paying the 1.5% tax that was most recently introduced for housing tax, and on and on. And most recently, I think you may have seen an article on the newspaper saying that 6,000 plus investors are fleeing from the stock market in Nairobi, and therefore the stocks prices are going low. So computations of those stocks and value of those stocks are still running low. Everything is just in a mess. Which way Kenya now? Which way?
Yeah, for me, I think the best thing, the people we can bet on right now is Parliament. I urge my Parliament to actually sit down and stay strong and object any bills that are going to overtax Kenyans. And that's the only way the president can be stopped from implementing all these laws, because Kenya is not going to move. When everything is going to be expensive, actually it brings forth unemployment at the end of the day, because we are now talking about big companies fleeing the country. Investors are not attracted to invest in Kenya anymore.
Just hold on there. Just I'm going to challenge you, and you perhaps are aware of it, or maybe you're not. Parliament, you said we paid on Parliament? A Kenyan walking on the streets would be asking, are you dropping from the moon?
That's a good thought right there. But we can only do what we can do, because what we can say, because we don't have that power, is that to urge parliamentarians of goodwill to try to stay for the people, because those are the only people who can defend us, because we've elected them to go to Parliament. Otherwise, going to the street and start rioting is not going to help anything. Otherwise, like I told you, the country is going to shambles right now, because if people are not going to afford a meal, then they're going to, insecurity is going to arise, and the chaos is going to arise in the country.
So I'm going to challenge you deeper so you can provide this information. This platform really can provide the information when you say we paid on Parliament, and what if they don't do it? Are there clauses where if your member of Parliament cannot do anything, you recall them, you put pressure on them, you recall them home, so that you put pressure on them, then they make the noise? Is Dr. Mandi, which way can you?
Even me, I would say Parliament, and by the way, Parliament has most well-educated, well-experienced people. But disappointingly, one of the way forward, does it mean when a rider keeps quiet, there is no opposition in Kenya? My challenge is, what has ASMIO done? Because these are some of the things they need to read the budget. The problem with the country is that members of Parliament only wait to be given something to vote for a bill. They vote for a bill without even reading. We don't see really people. At Kenya, we want to see where people debate issues. They look at this, do we need this? How can we attract investors? Right now, even if I want to invest in Kenya, I would rather invest even in Tanzania, because you don't trust anything in Kenya. The image we are fighting in Kenya, first of all, let us sit down and then we increase. Where did we take the 2030 vision in 2030? Does it mean when our president comes in, he throws away somebody's idea? Kibaki started Vision 2020, which should have been carried, whereby by the year 2020, we were supposed to be a developed country. And industrialization, where are we? That's, I would want the way forward. Let us go read and see where we went wrong. And if we can fight corruption and the judiciary, we are not seeing many cases being settled, people going to jail, people steal money in Kenya with impunity, and nothing is done. We are not going anywhere. That is where we start. Or the way forward, we go the Sri Lanka way.
What is this Sri Lanka way, if you can just give us in 30 seconds?
When things were bad in Sri Lanka, the cost of living went up, and the people could even go to gas station. Is going to reach where even there is not going to be gas in the gas stations. That's when you will see middle class people when they run from one gas station and there is no fuel, or I hear next week is going to 300 a liter. People are going to demonstrate and they will walk to State House and kick you out. That's what they did in Sri Lanka.
They walked to State House and kick him out.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what my friend Matundura said. He doesn't think demonstrations really will help at all.
Well, I know demonstration may not help, but it's, demonstration done in the right way. And actually, this is the time I'm calling upon the non-governmental organization, even the rights group to come up and mobilize and try to push the government. I'm actually urging the citizens to come together in solidarity and even actually call the parliamentarians if they are not trying to agitate for their rights in parliament. And so it's actually a collective responsibility for everybody or everybody in the country that can be able to push these people, push the parliamentarians so that they can make laws and actually stay oppose any laws that are going to increase the taxes in the country. I mean, that's the way. Otherwise, like Dr. is saying, the Sri Lanka way is going to be the mode of the day, because now people are going to, take the law by their hands and do what they have to do because they have to survive.
So thank you so much, very much, gentlemen. I think there's too many things are going on in Kenya. People are crying for help. The taxes are too much. The cost of living is too high. The value of the shilling is gone to the dogs. Everything is in a mess. Yet we know, for sure, that Ruto, who is the president today, and I want to give you 5 minutes here, he's really the salesman in chief for Kenya. Recently, he was in the United States. The other day, he was in Europe, Germany. He said he has gone there to look for jobs for Kenyans. And the other day, he was in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, where he specifically said 300,000 jobs for Kenyans in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia's population is much smaller than Kenya. Saudi Arabia, how is that? Did we elect him to go look for employment for Kenyans outside, or did we elect him to create employment for Kenyans within the boundaries of Kenya? Your take, my friend, Dr. Omandi.
Yeah, that's really funny. When the people going to Saudi Arabia, they are so desperate. These are some of them are university graduates who should be having jobs in Kenya. When you are attacking those people to get those odd jobs, that's not something as a president you should be proud of. A president is supposed to attract investors who can build factories, who can build industries to observe the people in Kenya. When you add employment, you tax them, and then the economy goes on. When they are going there to earn peanuts, it's not helping the country. This is the same people, the country of Kenya, educated, invested money, but now they are doing odd jobs in other countries. So for the country to move forward, we have first to create investor confidence, which has lacked from the Ruto administration due to high corruption.
Yeah. And for me, what I can say
What's
is
your take on that?
Yeah, the act of the president going out there to look for jobs, from different countries is a show of desperation on my take, because that's not what we elected him to do. That's not what he promised Kenyans. He promised Kenyans that he's going to make jobs, make the platform for people or investors to come in and invest and create jobs to the country. So it's a sense of desperation. And the only way forward for the president is to restructure his advisors and look at the policies that he promised Kenyans and deliver on them. And the main thing he needs to do is to look for jobs. It's jobs, and it's only jobs that can help Kenya. But this other stuff is just going to be not good for Kenyans, and it's not going to help Kenyans succeed.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I want to thank you all for joining today's KCHT TV, we had a robust discussion about the economy of Kenya and how the president is reading and how he is, and his topics about the economy stupid, as they used to say it, and how Kenyans are really struggling. Again, the issue of Kenyans fighting for their survival on their own land, paying taxes, and my take is the members of parliament, like my friend you said, they should go in and repeal the financial statement from June. That's a job killing financial statement. That job killing, it's killing everybody. It's overtaxing everybody. It's like taxing a dead cow already. So they repeal it. They go back to square one, lower the taxes, attract more investors, streamline the judiciary, be more efficient, and remove all the corruption, and Kenya will grow to be what its potential is supposed to be. Thank you so much, and we will be here next time, at this time on Thursday, and every Thursday this time is KHTV. Adios.
Thank you very much.
Mimi nataka niwaambie hii mafuta inaongezwa usiku na mchana. Mimi nataka niwaeleze ya kwamba these people don't understand